Who has the most awkward losing their virginity story? I am sure there is something more awkward than this. Right, please. I am bi, so when I tell this story, I mean I was losing my straight virginity, because I guess that could be a thing. My technical virginity and gay virginity was lost years earlier. I was having a house party for my 21st birthday, late bloomer. Perhaps I have been the fat guy my whole life. Confidence was always an issue for me with my friends that were not old enough to make it out to the bar with me. A month and a half prior, I had become friends with a group of girls who really liked to party. I had just started getting into the crazy party drunken scene with my newly found confidence. I learned I could be the life of the party. One of these girls I had a bit of a thing for, but she was way out of my league. Like way out of my league. But newly found confidence, drunkenness, and the fact that if I went for it and was rejected, it was not like I was losing a friend from 10 plus years ago. I just met her. I set my sights that I was going to try and get with this chick. We made out a few times. Well, a lot of people were making out with a lot of people, so it was not that weird. I think I made out with like 15 girls and 10 guys that night or something. Eventually the night started slowing down, and she asked to come sleep in my bed with me. I am super nervous. It is like I was being pulled over by the cops. My drunk just instantly went away and I was just freaking out. Eventually, after making it blatantly obvious she wanted me to finger her and I just kept rubbing her stomach awkwardly, she grabs my hands and forces it into her pants. After she returned the favor and played with my member, and I ate her out, I awkwardly asked should I get a condom. After she replies yes, I think asked her about 3-4 times if she was sure. I should note that while writing this, I am continuously face-bombing myself thinking about how ridiculous I was. I had been hosting quite a few parties over the past 6+ months, and learned how helpful having a community condom drawer was. Kind of like a give a penny take a penny system. I did not want my friends getting pregnant. I did not want my friends getting an STD. I did not want my friends getting stains anywhere. So I reached into my community condom drawer, slid it on, and went to work. The first thing I noticed was that it did not feel nearly as awesome as I had imagined. Like, you've spent your teen years fapping and imagining what a fag actually feels like, and then you were finally there, with a really hot chick and it is like, me. Then, after a few minutes, I realized that it is not that it does not feel awesome, it is that I do not feel anything at all. Like, I could not feel my penis. If the movie Teeth had been out at the time, I probably would have panicked. So, not only was it my first time, but I also could not feel anything. I am sure it was probably the worst sex she had ever had. While I have my dick in this hot chick, the only thing I am thinking about is oh my god, I must be gay. I thought I was bi this whole time because I have always found myself attracted to women more so than men. But here I am having sex with a woman and I cannot feel anything. I figured I just had to be gay. She eventually made some noises that I am sure had to be fake. I followed them up with some awkward kind of grunting. Then, after we shared a post-sex kiss, I told her I was going to go outside and have a smoke. I do not smoke, but I had a pack of mini cigars for when I hang outside with people that do smoke. So I go outside and stand there, pretending to inhale, contemplating what life will be like as a gay man. I eventually shuffle back into my room and we fall asleep together. The next morning, in the light, I look at the floor and see the condom wrapper. It was a triple thick desensitizing lubricated condom for guys with stamina problems. True story. Too long didn't he read by. Had sex with girl for first time. Could not feel anything. Thought I was gay because of it. Provided her with awful sex while I was freaking out about how I must be gay. Looked at the condom wrapper the next day and saw it was triple thick and had desensitizing lube on it for guys with stamina problems. She was on top of me. We were on her bed. The door was on the opposite wall behind her. Her brother walked in. She grabbed the blanket to cover herself up and quickly jumped off of me, and for some reason I quickly grabbed my phone and pretended I was texting. I did not even think to cover up or hide or anything. I was just lying on my back fiddling with my phone while my girlfriend tried to rectify the situation. I always pretend to be texting or doing something on my phone when in an awkward situation, and because I am a moron I guess I thought it would work then as well. Hug, does not matter, had sex, still counts, best 30 seconds of my life. I went in and thought I came instantly. I did not feel an orgasm, but I felt fluid rushing out. I figured it was due to anxiety that I did not get the pleasure out of it. After rolling off, we saw blood everywhere. I asked her, "Is that you?" And with this horrified look on her face she shook her head. I went into the bathroom and checked myself out. Had a little cut just below my head that was bleeding a little. I had gone limp by then, but I assume it was just flowing out when I was erect, hence the fluid sensation. Got it checked out. I ripped my frenulum. You know that strip of tissue holding your tongue to the bottom of your mouth. You have got one on your dick too. I guess I went in too fast or she was not wet enough. I remember it kind of hurting when I pushed in, but it was not that bad. I had to get surgery to get it repaired, but the area where it happened is super sensitive even 5 years later, and not in a good way. I ended up dating the girl for about 6 months after that, and then she went crazy and I broke up with her over the phone. Too long didn't he read losing my virginity resulted in surgery. Edit. I forgot the best part. I had to go home and tell my mother that I needed to go see a doctor. I had to explain what a frenulum was and how I managed to rip it. She is a nurse so it was not that bad, but it was still one of the most awkward conversations I have ever had. It is the summer between my 8th grade and freshman year when my neighbor's daughter came up to visit from Florida. The neighbor and I had a relationship that, when I look back on it now, was a little weird. I was a teenager. He was in his late 30s and kind of imprinted himself as a father figure, big brother. Anyways, I had talked to his daughter on the phone a bunch before she came out to visit, so we already knew each other. The second we met, it was like two concentrated balls of hormones colliding into each other. Not just my balls. She gave me this look like, it is going down the second we get a chance. So, a few days later her dad went to work. I was out with my friends terrorizing the neighborhood. She calls me and says, "Come over." I am horny. I say to my friends, "I gotta go," and they start asking questions, so naturally I tell them I am going to go lose my virginity to the neighbor's daughter. High fives and I am off. So I am upstairs and we're just getting started when I hear my two friends outside. One is screaming through my trumpet because he did not know how it worked, and the other is singing "Oh Christmas Tree," occasionally replacing the lyrics with the more traditional "Oh Tannenbaum." When he forgot the lyrics he would switch to TV theme shows to the tune of "Oh Christmas Tree," all the while making sure to do this as loudly and poorly as humanly possible. Needless to say, this distraction was nowhere near powerful enough to dissuade my sex at time. If anything, it helped me perform a little better than expected. Too long didn't he read "Lost My Virginity" while being serenaded with Christmas songs in the middle of summer by my two best friends. My story starts awesome, then awkward and gets back to awesome. So after fooling around with my GF for a few weeks, she finally hints that she is ready to go for it tonight and that I should buy some condoms. I run to the chemist after work and am faced with 20 different types of condoms. I just grab the normal type and try not to seem too nervous while paying. We get to her place that night and things start getting hot. We finally strip naked and I get the condom out. Having never used a condom before but not wanting to show it, I casually try to keep up conversation while I am struggling with all my might to put the damn thing on. After breaking the first one I kinda excuse myself, and walk into the bathroom with a second condom and the instructions. After a few minutes I am panicking because the ducking condom will not go on and am mortified that I look like an idiot who cannot even put on a condom. She finally walks into the bathroom confused and suggests I try a condom she had in her purse just in case. That one is not going on either and I am standing there with a boner in one hand, unrolled condom in the other, muttering apologies and feeling absolutely ridiculous. "Maybe the condoms are too small," she comments. "We should buy XL ones." I thought that was nice of her, but I never had thought my penis was above average, so she convinces me and we get in my car and drive to the nearest chemist. And then came the second most awkward part. This was a different chemist and this one did not have any condoms on display, so I had to ask an elderly lady for condoms for gentlemen with extra girth. The lady smiles and looks at my girlfriend waiting in the car outside. She goes to the back of the store and hands me the box with a wink and told me to have a nice night. Later we sexted and it was glorious. Edit with my girlfriend, not the old lady. I was 15 and had never done anything before. The girl was older and had sex with her ex-boyfriend a few times. I lied and said I had done it a bunch of times before, so I had it in my mind she was expecting 15-year-old me to be amazing in the sack. Anyway, she comes over and we are upstairs in my bedroom with my parents in the living room directly beneath. Things get going, and I ate her out until she had apparently her first orgasm. At this point, I am feeling pretty damn good about myself. So we keep fooling around and she asks if I want to duck, or if she should just blow me since my parents are home. Clearly, I state that my parents will definitely not come up and not to worry, so I pull out this condom that I have taken from my dad's drawer. He had jokingly said to me that if I ever needed one, I could get it from his drawer. At this point, I had no idea that he was joking, and had had a vasectomy years earlier. These condoms were relics from another time. So I am trying to put this condom on. Shit is not working. I got it over the tip, was satisfied, and tried to duck her. I was having trouble getting it in. These days I blame the condom, but it could have been because I had just learned how vaginas work a second ago when I ate her out. So she eventually rips the condom off me and says do not worry. She hopped on top. And damn did it ever feel good. We were ducking. I had lost my virginity. I was pumped, so pumped that I completely forgot that my parents were directly underneath. She started to like it and go pretty fast and heavy, and makes some now obviously too loud noises. I hear someone coming up the stairs and look at her like oh, no. She kind of just looks at me funny and then out of nowhere my mom bursts in the door. First she looks at the girl, who is naked on top of her 15-year-old son's dick, and then at me, and then yells oh shit, and slams the door and runs down the stairs. Now my mom is one of those really over-the-top proper British expats, and she really was not pleased. The girl was kinda freaked out, so post-boner I went downstairs to try and curb the shitstorm. I walk in the room and my mom is just glaring at me. Look over to my dad and he is just smiling at me. Pretty sure that was the most pride I have ever seen in his face. So my mom says what were you doing? And I, being the shithead that I am, said what did it look like we were doing? This is not funny, you are only 15. She replied. It went on like this for a little while and then I went back upstairs. Girl was freaking out, did not want my parents to hate her. We actually ended up hanging out for the rest of the night and watching a movie. She gave me a beach and I busted in her mouth first non-self-induced orgasm of our. It was the bee's knees. My dad and I drove her home at the end of the night, and on the way back he said that I should keep that one hidden from my mom. To this day my mom refers to her as oh that slut, like she came and stole her innocent little child. What a great day. My experience is only really awkward in retrospect. I was 18 and oblivious, really oblivious. I basically had to get pounced on in the most direct manner to even notice. Anyhow, I suddenly found myself with a girlfriend that was 3-4 years older than me. I had not even kissed anyone until she showed up. One evening, I am at her place with another couple. Making out ensues. Midway through, she takes me into the other room and gives me a BJ. After the deed is done, she goes in the other room while I try to recover the ability to move. When she walked in the other room, she theatrically wiped her mouth, thus announcing her conquest. Where the awkwardness comes in, is that I am now married to the girl from the other couple that was there that night. TL Doctor lost my virginity with my future wife in the next room. A buddy of mine used to use my computer to spend an enormous amount of time on Yahoo Chat looking for a woman that wanted a casual hookup. We were both 19. I thought he was wasting his time until one day out of the blue he jumped up from the computer and told me that some lady wanted to meet in a nearby park. He said she was an older lady that apparently wanted to bang a young guy and she wanted to verify he was who he said he was. I ride along with my buddy to the park. telling him the whole way that she is not going to show or that some creepy old hag or serial killer will be waiting for us. But not 5 minutes after parking a big soccer mom SUV with my kid is an honor student bumper stickers on it rolls right up next to us. The lady was in her mid to late 30s and attractive, looked like every normal mom you have ever seen. My buddy gets out and goes to talk to her and she looks over at the car and asks who his friend is, so I get out and go talk to her. We just shoot the shit, did not mention sex or anything. After less than 10 minutes we part ways. As soon as we got back to my house he loaded up Yahoo chat and within moments she was back online, but now very explicit, asking my friend if he likes eating pussy, asking him if he has ever been with a squirter, asking him if he has ever ducked an ass. Really vulgar stuff. He met her just a few hours later in a cul-de-sac in my own subdivision and did her right up the pooper while she was splayed out on the hitch of his truck. Couple hours go by and she is back on Yahoo chat being explicit again and asking him if his friend wanted some of what he had had. I was scared to death, definitely wanted to duck her, but I was intimidated as hell. My buddy set up something with her and said you are getting laid in the morning. I was so nervous I grabbed some liquor out of my dad's cabinet and got a little bit drunk and fell asleep. The next morning at 8 a.m. I am being driven to a Motel 6. I called beforehand and was told the room was $40 plus tax. I did the math and had just enough money for it. We get down there and she is waiting outside in her mom van already. My buddy is very amused by all of this and drops me off while giving her a smirk and a wave. It is raining, so I run inside to pay the bill and find out I am exactly $1 short because of some additional hotel tax. I have to go outside in the rain, walk up to this lady's SUV and ask her for $1. I was horrified. She laughed and said it was not a problem, that she should probably be splitting the room anyway. I took the buck back, got the keys, came out and told her what our room number was. I remember being hungover, my mouth super dry, and my hand shaking from anxiety. We went into the room and I said something to her about needing some water. I walked over to the sink and splashed water all over my face and drank almost until I was bloated and then took a big leak. As I came out of the restroom I found her on the bed, in the nude, on all fours, just sitting there looking at me, smiling, not saying a word, ass up in the air like it was no big deal at all. I will save all the gory details since I guess this is not supposed to be a penthouse story thing, but I walked over to her, kind of just stood there like an idiot and put my hand on her ass and she pretty much took over, started blowing me, and I think I lost it in, I dunno, maybe 20 seconds or even less. I was embarrassed, but she seemed turned on by how little I knew about sex or how quick I was to finish. Less than 20 minutes later she had me back up, and I was pretty much following every one of her orders. She had pick a position, get into it, and I did just bang away. At the end I was certain she had not climaxed. I asked her what she would like the most to finish and she wanted me to go down on her, which I did. I told her I wanted her to get a finish, and within 10 minutes I was almost violently finger-ducking her with 3, sometimes 4 fingers while eating her out. She finally did climax and I swear it was just like those stupid porn videos. Lots and lots of fluid went everywhere. All over me, all over the bed, even on the floor next to the bed. It just went absolutely everywhere. Had a watery consistency, not like pee or anything. I was not turned on by it at all but was happy she had finished. After that we made small talk for maybe 2 or 3 minutes and I walked out of there. She said she had dropped the key off, I think. I said something stupid like thanks, which made her laugh. She was lying on the bed spread eagle, not a care in the world. As I walked out of there, saw her in the grocery store about a year later with her teenage daughter. We looked at each other for just a second and then both looked away at the same time. Have not seen her since. My first week of college I had met this girl and started chatting with her on the IM. This was 2003. She was probably about a 5 or 6, certainly nothing I did brag about. One day, she asks if I want to come over and hang out in her dorm room. I said sure and came over. We sat on her futon and watched a couple episodes of Friends and did a little chatting. It's about 11 p.m. now and I have 8 a.m. classes, so I say that I should probably head back to my room and get to bed. She then walks over to her door, locks it and says you are staying here tonight, and then straddles me and we start making out. I am kind of confused, but hey, if she wants to make out then we will make out. Things progress a bit and now we are naked. I go down on her for a bit and she returns the favor for a little while. She then walks over to a drawer and pulls out a condom and tosses it to me. Put this on. It's one of those colorful ones that they hand out free in the dorms. I remember that it was bright red, so I managed to put it on and she lays down on the bed and spreads her legs. I awkwardly get into position and take about 30 seconds to get in, thinking clove-in and super bod. Oh my god, it is in, was going through my mind at this point. She just lays there like a dead fish while I awkwardly hump for about a minute and we're done. I take the condom off and she tells me to sleep on the futon. I took the walk of shame in the morning and we never spoke again. The story of the act itself is boring, but the events leading up to it were pretty funny. A few months after turning 18, my girlfriend and I decided it was time that we look into getting condoms. Because our heavy petting was getting more frequent, I was a little afraid of going to the only drugstore in my hometown where some friends worked to buy condoms. So I made a trip over to my friend's house in the next town, and along the way I picked up some condoms there. Sweet girl working the register smiles and says have a good night. I finally get to my buddy's house, and we are derping around talking about games and computers and our girlfriends when he decides that he wants to get some energy drinks, which he said he had coupons for, at that particular drugstore. So we drive to the drugstore that I had just bought condoms from, and we both grab 2 energy drinks each. The same girl is still there at the register, and has the most horrified, disgusted look on her face when we walk up to her to buy our drinks. Only after we get back to his house do I break the news that I had just bought condoms about 30 minutes from the same store cashier. Probably going to get buried, but alas, I lost my virginity when I was 17 and went on holiday to Spain with a group of friends. Before we went out to the bars, we were all drinking at the hotel's bar and we got talking to these 2 girls. I hit it off with one, and when she asks me my name, my friend leans over and jokingly says his name is Steve, which it is not. She then starts calling me Steve to the point where it had be really awkward to correct her. So I just think duck it, I will run with it. What is the worst that could happen? And after a while she scratches her nails down my leg and mouths I want you to meet. Good times. Took her back upstairs to our room and boned her for a while. By this time my friends had all gone out and got absolutely blackout, wasted on a bar crawl. One friend comes back early and sees that I unintentionally had sex with this girl on the bed he was sleeping in. No big deal, except he freaks out, calling this girl a whore, telling her I am a virgin, that my name is not Steve, and starts swinging punches, lands one and then proceeds to sit on the floor of the hotel corridor and immediately bursts out crying, apologizing to me over and over again. I then have to get him into my bed and try to smooth things over with this girl. Surprisingly, it went okay and I banged her a couple more times on the holiday. I even got my friend in with her friend, and we all ducked in the same room. Funny thing was, when I got back home, she had added me on Facebook. Turned out she had a different name than what she had told me. Girlfriend from high school wanted to do it when we were about 18 and virgins, and I chickened out. Do not ask. Fast forward 5 years, I am out of college and still a virgin. Do not ask. And was visiting home, and well, she is still there and pretty experienced. Anyways, after a little bit of flirting and small talk, I get to her place and she conveniently jumps out of the shower and we go at it. She rides me for about a minute and I am done. As she is getting off me, she says, "Her, did you just lose your virginity?" Me yay, her congrats. And then she gets dressed up. We did it several times later, through my vacation, but I will never forget being congratulated by the girl that I had just lost my virginity to. Lost my virginity to my girlfriend of about 8 months. I was 18 and all of my friends had already lost theirs. She was a Roman Catholic schoolgirl that was very into waiting for marriage. Additionally, she was 4 feet 10 and weighed 92 pounds. I was at the time 5 feet 10 and weighed 205 pounds. I did not want to pressure her at all. One night we're making out in my bed and she stated very enthusiastically, "Let us have sex." Needless to say, clothes were off in 10 seconds. I awkwardly asked her how she wanted to do it. She said missionary, to at least keep some of the integrity of her religious beliefs. So I try and get it in, but she is so short that I am not able to look in her eyes while we were making love. I insisted that it had to be done right, so she straddled me instead. Cowgirl FTW. 3 minutes later it was over and we both passed out. Next morning my mom opens the door while both of us are naked on top of the covers, screams and yells at me to come outside. Long story short, she was pissed and said I cannot have girls over anymore. My GF was super embarrassed and we broke up 3 weeks later. Too long didn't he read was a foot taller than my ex-Christian GF. Missionary did not work. BC I wanted to look her in the eye while boning. Mom walks in next morning to us naked in bed. Broke up. WGF less than a month LATR. When I was in high school I had this moral objection to having sex before I was married, and my non-virgin, super horny girlfriend at the time was having a really hard time with it. It was honestly pretty stupid on my part, seeing as we were still doing oral, mutual masturbation, and after getting so horny that she needed my dick in her and suggested it anal sex. During the session of anal sex, I ended up pulling it out too far and sticking it back into her vagina. She was so stunned, elated, orgasming that she could not tell me that I was no longer ducking her in the ass. I eventually realized what was going on and lamely asked her if I was in her vagina. She said I was, and I just stood there for a minute trying to realize that I just had vaginal intercourse for the first time. I then said duck it and finished boning her. I know I could hardly be considered a virgin if I had been having anal sex with her, but that is the way I thought when I was younger, and I still consider it emotionally to be the time I lost my virginity. Do not think it is that awkward, but anyways, it was a Sunday and I had the house all to myself, so obviously for an 18-year-old that means a lot of fapping. Finished 3 different times. Later that night I get a call from this girl I met at a party like 3 days ago, saying how she wants to do something naughty with a nice guy. Swoop her up in my car and find a parking lot. I was able to barely get it up, but from time to time it waned, but she took its stride and worked with it. After a good 30 minutes she was finished and I still was having trouble staying up. LOL. Asked her if she could finish me, so she gave me an awkward hand job for 5 minutes until I finally came. Was lucky she was a great girl and did not feel that embarrassed at the time. Too long didn't he read I had fapped 3 times a day, so I had trouble keeping it up. My senior year of high school I was madly in lust with my assistant manager at my first job. He was 21 and I was 18, so we casually flirted for a few years before my senior prom rolled around. I decided to invite him to an after party at a hotel in the hopes of getting some action that night. He eventually showed up drunk and it seemed like he was on some drugs as well. This was typical behavior, so I did not think much of it. We decide to go on a beer run, and he lets me drive his car. As I am driving his car he is all over me and I am practically swerving down the road. Luckily this was a back road. We finally get some beer and make our way back, but as I am driving he tries to climb on top of me as if he was trying to straddle me, and I have to push him off of me. Finally, we park and get to business. After a while a security comes over and taps the window telling us to move along. I go back to the party. He leaves. I find out 3 days later that he overdosed that same night and was Baker-acted, which was why he had not called me. He lived, but was in the hospital for a while. Too long didn't he read lost my virginity in typical high school fashion, and the guy overdoses that same night. I have some fairly bad social anxiety and have always been shy and awkward around people I do not know. I think I am kind of attractive, but a bit on the skinny side. Anyway, I am 20 years old and I figured I did give Craigslist a shot. I posted an ad saying I am a virgin looking for a girl to help me lose my virginity. A cute 18-year-old girl replied, and a few days later, I went to her house while her parents were gone. We awkwardly greeted each other and then sat on her couch. She had been watching a Burn Notice marathon. Our conversation went something like this: I do not watch the show much. I like that one guy, Bruce Campbell. Who is that? That is the other guy who, drinks sometimes. He was in Army of Darkness. What is that? It is a horror movie that he was in. It is pretty good. Oh, all the while I am trying not to make eye contact and her old, shedding cat is chilling on my crotch. On the ride over, my mouth had gotten extremely dry, so I ask her if I can have a glass of water. She gets me a glass of water and I drink it. So do you want to make out? I ask. Okay, we go back to the couch and make out for 5 minutes. Then we move to her parents' bed. She did not want me to go in her room for some reason. We just kinda get naked and get into bed and continue awkwardly making out for a while. I start fingering her and she starts playing with my dick. It soon become painfully apparent that I am not getting hard. My mind was focusing too much on not making this any more awkward than it already was that I could not get turned on by the situation. I tried hard to think of some hot kinky stuff and managed to get semi-hard a couple times. But after getting into position to stick it in, it goes limp before actual penetration. She tells me to lie on my back and starts sucking my penis. It feels great, but I am still not getting hard. I then feel the orgasm building up and say, hey, wait, hold on. She lifts her head and looks at me to see what is up. It is too late. I start jizzing on myself. I awkwardly shook my head in disappointment at my penis and she got me a hand towel to clean up. We try making out again, but I am still not getting hard. I have her get on her hands and knees and finger her while I try to get my cock's spirits up for about 10 minutes. But it becomes obvious that he is having none of it. We awkwardly dressed. She gave me an awkward hug, and I left. We have been together for 5 months now. I never saw her again and have decided that I am going to go build a cabin in the woods and live out the rest of my life in isolation as a partially sane hermit. I know that does not count because I did not actually lose my virginity, but I figured it is close enough. Summer of 11th grade, I had been trying to have sex with this girl all summer long. Finally, 2 days before school started, she came over to my house after my mom left for work and we started fooling around. After what seemed like an eternity of foreplay, I was perhaps a little too tumescent. She retrieved a condom from her purse, slipped it over my root, laid down on my bed and spread her legs. That moment for me was like every single Christmas distilled into a single moment. I stepped forward and entered her, and on thrust 2 and 3 4, I nutted. Then I had a panic attack. 2 and 3 4 pumps is not sex. That is pathetic. So while my dong was deflating, I resolved to pump it into her as many times as I could. So there I was, rapidly jabbing my rubbery penis into her like some sort of sad, depraved chihuahua. Then, with no real exit strategy in sight, I feigned a cramp and told her I could not do it anymore. It really must have been a magical day for her. I was 17 and it was Christmas Day and my girlfriend was over visiting. I was going to take her home, but first I pulled off to this one spot by my house so that we could mess around. We started getting into it and then while I am fingering her she says let us have sex. We had been dating for a couple months and I really liked her, so I said okay. We go in the back seat and she starts riding me. I did not have a condom and I last about 7 minutes before she gets me off. After I got over the fact that I had just done it for the first time, I noticed that the car is really quiet and I had remembered that I left the AC and the radio on. I go to try and start it and it is dead. I cannot call my parents because they would know that I fooled around with my GF in that spot in my mom's car. I call a friend and he drives over and gives us a jump. Too long didn't he read mom's car battery died on Christmas night while I was banging my GF for the first time on a side road by my house. I had liked a girl in high school for close to a year. I never had a GF before this, because I moved around a lot in HS, so we would talk about sex constantly. We both know we wanted decother. Thing was I did not know how to take it to the next level. Well, thankfully, she initiated and asked if I wanted to go for a drive at 1 AM. Of course I comply. We ended up finding a deserted area, where I parked my car. We slowly began making out, and then I reclined her passenger seat. The car was not very spacious, and we were fumbling around to get a good position. On top of this, I did not realize at the time I was using too small of condoms, which made sex not enjoyable for years. So we maneuvered around trying multiple angles for a good 25 minutes. It was all too awkward, and nothing was really what I expected. She then decided to get on top of me being 18. I did not have much flexibility in the penile region. It only stood up, topping off with her being pretty inexperienced as well. She pretty much torqued my member every way possible, causing quite an uncomfortable pain. I eventually told her to stop because it was too painful. I ended up never finishing, and drove her home. I find it weird that I never came on my first experience. The whole ordeal of awkward sexy time lasted around 45 minutes. I am not exaggerating cause we went through the whole Usher CD when I called it off. We never gave it a second shot until, 8 years later she finds me on Facebook, and was visiting a city I was in. We went to a bar, we both got drunk and went back to my house. Let us just say the second time with her was a lot better than the first. My losing it story was awkward, but not too bad. It was to my new boyfriend whom I was and am still in love with last summer at a big 4th of July party at his house. I suggested it. He was very confused and not expecting it because I had not let him do anything else before that date, and he ended up being too drunk to sustain himself. Yep, the best part is that we passed out with the condom wrapper on his desk, and the next morning all of our friends that slept over like 10 people walked into the room and tried to wake us up. I was not wearing pants. My favorite story though is the first time I accompanied him to buy condoms a few weeks later. We had gotten a bit better at it by then. We went to a quick check a town over because I was still really embarrassed about sex and didn't he want anyone I actually knew in my town to see us. I decided that, instead of making him go in and buy them by himself, I'd accompany him just this once to see if I had the balls to look the cashier in the eyes. Well, he asked the man behind the counter to get us 1 pack of condoms, but the man apparently misheard him and said, 5 packages of condoms. My face turned bright red and my boyfriend just looked a little shocked and said, I am sorry, no, just 1 package please. The cashier and my boyfriend both started laughing all bro-like together, and then the cashier followed by saying, I was gonna say, damn, 5 packages, do you guys want a 5-hour energy with that too? My boyfriend and the man continued laughing as I turned around and walked as fast as I could out of the quick check. That was the last time I ever did that. New Year's Eve 3 years ago, I went to London to visit a mate, along with this other lad. I assumed we had be doing the typical tourist New Year's thing, get drunk, go to some overcrowded landmark and watch a few fireworks. But no, they had it in their mind to go grab a couple of Asian hookers from Chinatown. I was mortified, given that I never had sex, and was not very keen on the idea of losing it to a prostitute who may well have an STD been trafficked, but, despite my objections and after some vodka, I reluctantly agreed. I felt sick on the tube ride there. I absolutely did not want to do it, but once we were there, I plucked up a little though not enough to volunteer to go first. There were 2 girls available, but one would not sleep with white men, which was a shame, because she was by far the fitter of the 2. So friend 1 and his Chinese mate went first. My other mate tried to gear me up a bit, with all sorts of platitudes, but after the hour passed, the vodka had more or less worn off, and I insisted that he go first. After waiting in a drab living room watching Meet the Fockers on a poxy little TV with a cup of tea in my hand, my turn came at 11:30, but the girl had decided she was too tired to take on a third dude at once. I felt like a complete merc. I basically wasted my new year, and was so frustrated by the whole episode that all I wanted to do was go to bed. But my mates took this to mean I felt bad about not getting my turn. So at 12:30 am, we flicked through a Chinese newspaper to find a new girl for me. Despite my insisting that they really need not bother, we found a girl who would do a 10 am seating, but only for half an hour. All I hoped was that after all this, the girl would be worth it. She was not, borderline unattractive, and immensely paranoid of catching something. I was tired and barely turned on when it came to the act. She would not let me touch my own dick, never mind her fanny. Every time I tried to coax some life into my knob, she would say no no no, bring out an antibacterial sheet and wipe my dick with it. This did not help, so in the end, I more or less dry humped this girl with my semi. Then I had to go to my friends, smile, and say thank you, rather than kicking each them straight in the nuts like I wanted. I had been with the girl for about 6 months, long distance relationship 2 hours away. We were both 16 and had just started driving. My parents were super conservative and did not approve of the relationship period, so I had to hide the whole thing. We met through 4-H and so that was how we saw each other. The third time we were around each other in person 4 months after we started dating, I fingered her on a Greyhound bus full of kids. We were teen leaders. The next month at a week-long 4-H conference we decided we were going to do it. The conference was at a university and we stayed in the dorm rooms. The girl that was supposed to be her roommate ended up not going. Fourth day of the 5-day conference, I sneak to her room at 4:00 a.m. and we awkwardly have sex on the twin bed in the room. Neither of us took off our shirts. All missionary. Could not get the condom on. She did not come, and we had to be super quiet. The next day I got my first blowjob in the stairwell of the same dorm. She did not know what she was doing and sucked too hard and gave me bruises. Now many years later we are married. LOL. Too long didn't he read? 16 years old in a dorm room and stairwell with adults all around. Married her. I was 18 and working at the Renaissance Festival for the 4th year. One of my closest friends decided not to work there this year and warned me to stay away from my boss, who was clearly interested despite being twice my age and is quite the womanizer. A few months before the fair started, my boss and I started sexting and sending nude photos to one another. We started hooking up once fair started, even on site. One night, I drove over to his house and we started fooling around. He had to use a glass vibrator to start off since I was so tight. We only had sex for just a bit, though, since it was too painful for me. I had to finish him off with my mouth. It's still pretty embarrassing to this day. Few months later, I had sex with my close friend and told him I never did anything with the boss, who also is my friend's best friend. Hit like if you enjoyed this video. Consider subscribing to our channel.